Scamming in the congregation. A way back Wednesday's HAWKE'S Tawk and Squawk. Now yesterday I did the video about the two Bethelites who were sent to the West Park congregation back in 2003. And one of the reasons why the organization sent those two Bethelites was due to fraudulent activity in the congregation. I mean, along with the current presiding overseer, Lloyd Early, you know, the situation with his daughters and all their quote-unquote worldly shenanigans that led to him having to step down as an elder. He had to step down as an elder altogether. Meanwhile, the previous presiding overseer, Joseph Hearns, the shit he was doing was way worse. But meanwhile, they just had him step down as a presiding overseer versus having him step down or removing him as an elder altogether. You know, but with Joseph Hearns, he was scamming different witnesses throughout the circuit and shoot, even the district. He was a major scam artist. But he was able to get away with a lot of shit. I mean, it eventually caught up to him, but we'll get to that shortly. But in the meantime, prior to him having to step down as a presiding overseer, he was scamming and getting over on a lot of other witnesses, but he was getting away with it because you know that bullshit about Jehovah's Witnesses aren't supposed to sue one another or take each other to court. So witnesses like that, they use that to their complete advantage. You know, he was a big scam artist with his shady inventions like the swiper wiper. Now the swiper wiper was some little rubber thing he invented to clean your windshield wipers. You know, that went nowhere. I mean, a few people purchased them in support of them, but we used to always clown my homie Notorious because that was Joseph Hearns' youngest son. We used to always clown him about his pop's inventions. He had a couple other inventions, but I really don't remember what they were. I just remember the swiper wiper because whenever I would go over to Hearns' house, it was always like a bunch of boxes of them. And yeah, I used to take a couple of them. I mean, shoot, they were free. But I don't think the swiper wiper really went anywhere. And come to think of it, I don't even know really what Joe Hearns did for a living. You know, they always had a nice house. They always drove nice cars. Later on, they moved into like a gated community and actually had two different units. You know, my homie Notorious and his brother had one unit, and Joe Hearns and his wife, they had another unit. So he was getting money from somewhere. But all I know is that it was a lot of rumblings going around the organization about him. Because when I was younger, I used to notice a lot of people didn't like Joe Hearns. And as a result of that, a lot of people didn't like his sons, especially Nairaj. Now, Nairaj was the kind of individual, he just tended to rub people the wrong way. But it was the same case with his dad. It was just something about him. They just rubbed people the wrong way. But I used to hear a lot of rumblings about Joe Hearns and how he was a scam artist, and they wouldn't always, J-Dubs like to be polite with how they criticize fellow witnesses. They wouldn't use the word scam artist. I'm trying to think of the word they would use. It wasn't really so much scam artists, but they would say things like he sold faulty products, or he wasn't the best businessman. Now they're starting to come back to me. He did, and what's funny now that I'm thinking back to what he actually did for a living. I don't know if this was his only source of income, but I know this throughout the XJ-Dub community. We clown a lot of the former elders, current elders, or whatever about how they were window washers or whatever, and thought that they could exact power over people and took their little elder titles too far. Now it's coming back to me. Joe Hearns, he did install windows. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if that was his only form of income, but it's like they lived in a nice house, had nice cars. You know what I mean? Him and his sons always had nice suits. His wife always dressed nice. So it's like they weren't extravagant dressers, but that the money had to be coming from somewhere. And I know he was wrapped up in a lot more scams than we knew about. Now, my Uncle Sheaf used to talk about him like a dog, like to his face and to us. Because Joe Hearns was foul. And it's like the stuff he was doing, getting over on his fellow witnesses, where they got him seriously hurt, dealing with non-witnesses, quote unquote, worldly folks. Where they got him hurt or in jail, but we're going to get to that. But like, he was another one, like, it was just always something about him that didn't really sit right. And then he had a nerve not to like me and always hinted that I was bad association. And because see, me and Nairaj, although we came up together in the congregation, we really didn't start hanging out with each other until later on, when I was about 16 and he was about 15. But like as kids, I couldn't stand Nairaj. Like I used to beat him up at the hall. He would bring his little money to the hall, showing off, and bring his little toys, and I would take them or break them, because like I said a few minutes ago, it was something about Nairaj. He just always rubbed people the wrong way. But once we became friends or whatever, that really intimidated Joe Hearns. And Nairaj would tell me, like, he would always talk shit about me behind my back. And I'm like, really? You know what I mean? I'm like, what's wrong with this Mr. Potato Head dude? Yeah, he looks like Mr. Potato Head. Like, picture Mr. Potato Head and LeVar Ball, the father of Lonzo, LaMelo, and LiAngelo Ball. The guy who started the Big Baller brand, BBB. Imagine LeVar Ball and Mr. Potato Head, and that's Joseph Hearns Sr. Like, Like, straight up. That's Joseph Hearns, Mr. Potato Head, and LeVar Ball. But yeah, he never liked me for whatever reason. And I think it made him mad too. Because my Uncle Sheaf, you know what I mean, was a big influential elder. Even before my uncle became an elder, he was like a real popular brother throughout the Philadelphia J-Dub region. You know what I mean? He knew witnesses down in Maryland, you know what I mean, and other places as well. And I think that ate Joe Hearns up on the inside too. You know what I mean? Plus he knew he couldn't pull no fast shit with me. You know what I mean? He never came out his mouth slick with me because he knew of my family. You know, the HAWKE'S name rung bells in the streets of West Philly. You know what I mean? Especially around that time when I was at J-Dub, like coming up as a witness. You know what I mean? Plus, me being real tight with my uncle, you know what I mean, his side of the family was known in the streets as well. So, Joe Hearns knew he couldn't talk all that slick shit that he wanted with me. So he would always try to manipulate his son into not hanging with me, but that was to no avail. But anyway, you know what I mean, even after stepping down as the presiding overseer, Joe Hearns was still an elder. I don't know how he didn't get demoted altogether. You know what I mean? Probably politics, probably paid somebody, one of the higher ups, or did something to keep his elder title. But even after that, like, his scamming and scheming ways didn't stop. And long story short, by 2008, by the time I left the J-Dubs, not only had he gotten this fellowship, but about 6 months to a year after that, he was in jail, like in prison. You know, when I found this out, like probably midway through 2009, I found out that he was in jail. He had got this fellowship right before I had left the J-Dubs. And it's funny because it was my homie Sean that told me. Like, we hanging out one day, we smoking or whatever. And he was like, yeah, man, I didn't even tell you that Brother Hearns got this fellowship. And I was like, what? It's like it really didn't come as a surprise, but it was a little shock factor to it. And we just bust out rolling. And I was like, that scamming and scheming that finally caught up with his Mr. Potato Head ass. You know, then, like I said, about maybe 6 months, 6 to 9 months after that, after I had already left the J-Dubs, had the baptism annulled and everything, that's when I found out he was in prison. And that explains why Brother Hearns and his wife had moved down south. They had left West Park they left West Park like before I had left for good. You know what I mean? Joe Hearns, his wife, and Joe Jr., they had moved down to Georgia, I think. Either Georgia or somewhere in Florida. Nat Rod, she had got married and moved to Pittsburgh. You know, me and my cousin Sheaf, they moved to Pittsburgh and they got married. You know what I mean? To their wives. But yeah, Joe Hearns, his wife, and Joe Jr., they moved down south. And he didn't get this fellowship at West Park, I don't think. If they made an announcement, I wasn't there for it, but that explains why they moved down south. trying to keep things on the hush hush. But you know, word gets around. And all those people Joe Hearns has scammed, yeah, it caught up to him. And you know, people was ecstatic about that. Oh, he got this fellowship and he's in prison. Like now, this was almost 15 years ago. I'm not sure if he's still locked up or not. You know, I haven't heard nothing about them in years. Last thing I heard about Naraj was that he had a daughter, and that was almost 10 years ago. You know what I mean? The one time I talked to my mom since leaving the J-Dubs, when she told me that he had a daughter. But that is the last I heard of any of the Hearns family. But yeah, old Joseph Hearns, scamming and scheming. Like I said, they caught up to his ass. And he was always like a crooked dude. And he was weird too. That was another reason why I never wanted to spend the night over, you know what I mean, their house. You know what I mean? Everybody's like, you want to stay the night? My cousin Sheik would always tell me how he would go over there. He said one night, Joe Hearns and his two sons was running around in their underwear, giggling and wrestling with each other. And he told me after that, he stopped spending the night over there. So, you know what I mean? They was all weird. So, and plus anyway, I didn't do that spending the night shit, like especially as no teenager. I mean, yeah, as kids, we might have had little sleepovers or whatever, but never no weird shit like that went down. You know. But yeah, that was Joe Hearns scamming, scheming his J-Dub brethren and getting away with it for the most part because they couldn't sue him or take him to court. Now, another scam artist in the congregation, this guy wasn't an elder and he wasn't even a ministerial servant. Hell, he wasn't even an exemplary brother who had privileges in the congregation. He just came to the hall with his wife and his sons and his daughter. Now this guy, man, this guy was definitely a character. This guy definitely was a character. Daniel Sims. Real slick talking dude. Like a lighter skinned brother. Always had like this little curly top. Always had on these nice suits. You know, like real slick talking. Like, hey, how you doing, young brother? Like, he was one of those. Like, I mean, he was cool. I mean, I never had an issue with him. But he was a funny guy. Now, I don't know exactly what he did for a living either. But all I know is that one of his hustles or incomes or whatever involved selling like briefcases and stuff like that. You know, the brothers, we would carry out briefcases or whatever. He sold them. Now, there was a brother, he had came up to Philly for the summertime. His grandmom lived in Philly. She lived in Winfield down the street from us, matter of fact. His name was William Ritchie. You know, he was from the islands. I think he was from Trinidad, if I'm not mistaken. But the summer he came up, he wanted to purchase a nice service bag. And somehow word got back to Brother Sims that he wanted to purchase one. So I think he sold him a bag for like $50 or something like that. It was a real nice bag, but only it was like a malfunction. Like the seams or whatever kept ripping and stuff would fall out the bag. So he told Brother Sims made every excuse in the book deflecting about his product. But finally, he was like, okay, I'll get you another bag. But he never got him another bag. And was doing everything in his power to avoid William Ritchie. So one day, William confronted him after the meeting, and Brother Sims backtracked time out. It was nothing wrong with the product. You know what I mean? You must have did something. Then had the nerve to say, you snooze, you lose, Brother Richie. Like, huh? What you mean you snooze, you lose? But, you know what I mean? Long story short, my Uncle Sheaf got involved, and, you know, Uncle Sheaf, nobody played around with him. So, eventually, you know what I mean? I don't think he ever got him another bag, but he did reimburse him his money. Then there was another incident where I'm not sure if he sold cars, but he knew people that sold used cars or whatever. And he scammed this single elderly sister by selling her a lemon. And I remember she paid a good $6,000-$7,000 for the car, but everything was wrong with it. He lied and said that everything ran good. Turns out the transmission was faulty. Something was wrong with the engine. You know what I mean? The radiator, like, and he never gave this sister her money back. Like, it was crazy, yo. Never gave her money back. Like, I don't even know how he got away with that. She involved the elders on that one too. She had got the elders involved, but he never gave her money back. You know? That was just wild. And it's just like you could look at this brother and tell that he was a slickster and a shyster. You know, but you know, William Ritchie, he was new in town, didn't really know anybody. He didn't know the friends like that, and he's just assuming, okay, he's a fellow witness, a baptized brother, so he must be legit. And meanwhile, the sister he got over on was an elderly sister. You know, so, and I'm trying to think. I don't think there was any other incidents with this brother, because word got around about the service bag and the car, and a lot of people stopped dealing with. Matter of fact, he stopped coming to the hall after that. Like, he would come, like, on occasion, like the circuit brother or whatever. Like I said, he wasn't even an exemplary brother in the congregation. None of his kids were baptized. Then his wife, she pioneered and came to all the meetings, and at the end, she was the only one still coming to the meetings. You know, and it's funny because her and my mom had got along real well, and all I know is that she was always bashing men. So I don't know what that was about. You know what I mean? You really mad at your husband because of how he is, so you trying to take it out on all men. Now, another scammer in the congregation. Now, this is all West Park related. Right here. When I went to the Northeast, I didn't come across any scamming brothers or hear any scamming stories or anything like that. But at West Park is another brother. Oh man, Stanley Jackson. He was another get over, not so much a scammer, but he was a get over and he was cheap. Like he would always like beg for rides because he didn't always have a car. You know, so he would always want rides places all over the city and to pick up other people, but would never offer no gas money. And it was one time he told me, because he lived right down the street from me too, he would be like, E, can you take me here and there? I'll give you a couple dollars for gas. And you know, I didn't mind, but you offering gas money, all right, sure. So he had me take him, his daughter, plus pick another sister and her daughter up. And he ain't tell me this till they got in the car. I'm like, you could have told me this beforehand. I hate when people spring shit on you at the last minute. Because they feel otherwise if they say something beforehand, you're going to say no. But he had me run him around and take him a couple different places. And then tried to play me like, oh, I'll give you gas money when I see you at the hall tomorrow. Tomorrow, the next day came, all of a sudden, he wasn't at the Kingdom Hall. Nor was he there that Tuesday. At this point, the Theocratic Ministry School service meeting has switched to Tuesdays because we have relocated from the old Kingdom Hall at 61st and Haverford to the new duplex down on 43rd and Haverford. So the next two meetings, he wasn't there. Now, we weren't in the same book study group. So that next Sunday, he was there. And I'm like, bro, where's that $30 for gas you promised me? Now, don't get it twisted. I wasn't in no need of gas money. And he didn't even have to offer. You know, but he did. And I'm going to hold him to his word. He starts getting defensive, Tomo. Oh, we're Christian brothers, and you know what I mean? You shouldn't be like that over money with that. I was like, nah, you not going to try that manipulation victim role with me. Like, you promised me, give me my gas money, or you not getting no more rides out of me. He sucked his teeth, went in his pocket. Was like, all I got is a 20. I said, it's all right, you can keep the other 10. I'm not sweating the money. It's just the principle. But yeah, he was another slick talking dude. I never really heard of him scamming anybody. But he was a real cheap dude and shiesty. He would never want to return the favor. Like, for instance, there was a brother who would always drive him and his daughter around, do whatever. Then when it was time to return the favor, when his brother's car was down or whatever, Stanley gets an attitude time out, oh, you want me to take you all the way across town and back for $20? That's not fair. Or, no, all you're offering is $20. That's not fair. Because this was that summer where the summer of 2005 when gas went up to $4 a gallon. You know, when he had a car with a V8 engine. So, you know, $20 in the summertime, and you're going from West Philly all the way up to the Northeast and back. Like, yeah, that $20 really ain't going to do much at $4 a gallon. But, I mean, that's just how he was, and eventually people got tired of doing stuff for him, and he wouldn't reciprocate. But yeah, as far as scamming in the congregation, from my experiences of seeing what happened with other people, I mean, that's really the only stories. But I know there's a lot more stories out there of Jehovah's Witnesses scheming and scamming each other and getting away with it because of that not being supposed to sue your fellow brother or take him to court bullshit. You know what I mean? So folks like Joe Hearns and Daniel Sims, they capitalized on that. But you see what happened to Joe Hearns? It got him this fellowship and in prison. I don't know what's going on with him now, and quite frankly, I don't care. But anyway, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more content on HAWKE'S Vision. This was some Talk and Squawk with your boy Hawk. Hawk out.